Hi, welcome to SorWil Solutions, where we talk about what's going on in our community. I'm Joe Wilson, the president and CEO of SorWil Technology Solutions. And today, my special guest is Stacy Rogers,
Hello.
running for the governor of Kansas.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's an honor to talk to anybody that's running, especially for such a prestigious position. How did you get into politics and what made you decide to run for governor?
Yeah. So in September of 23, actually, I was attending the state fair, and I have booths at the state fair for my businesses. And that one of those mornings, I was standing in my living room, and it was the day that Laura Kelly decided that you could change your sex on your driver's license. You could change your gender. And I just threw my hands up in the air in the middle of my living room and said, I can't take any more of this. I'm going to have to go be governor. And I had never once had that thought process prior to that moment. It not one day in my life had I ever thought I should go do this. But when I said it out loud, it just like emblazoned just right across my heart, and it has just not left. And so I go to the state fair and I start talking with people and, expressing how upset I was over this, because the thing about it is I don't know how many times a day you get your driver's license out and actually show someone, or you look at it yourself. To me, it's really not an issue of whether your gender is what your gender says on your driver's license. But our governor took taxpayer time and money to devote to that instead of addressing issues that would actually truly affect our daily lives and make them better. And so that from a frustrated Kansans perspective, that's where I was at. And so I started voicing that to people and said, look, I'm going to go run for governor. And they kind of chuckle at me because they're other vendors at the fair. And then they kind of look at me for a second and say, I'm not so sure that's not a bad idea. That isn't a good idea. You should do that. And so I started talking with more and more people. And what I have found universally across this state is that people do not feel like their voice is being heard. They feel like they are being discounted. Nobody's really working for them in the state anymore. And they don't trust any of our politicians. They don't trust that anyone really wants to do any good for them. What they believe is happening, and I think that we've seen that, is that these big money corporations and these special interest groups are ruling the day, running the show, and really the driving force behind our politics today. And so the people of this state are not being listened to. They feel helpless and hopeless. And so what they end up doing is either, if they're still engaged in the voting process, they walk into that booth and they say, well, they've got an R beside their name. I'll just vote R the whole way down. Even though I don't like these people, even though I don't really believe that they're working for me, they are the lesser of the two evils. Okay. And I've heard that on the other side as well. I've seen Democrats who say, vote blue no matter who. And I'm like, that is dangerous. You guys listen to what they're actually saying. And are they really working for you, or are they working for their own agenda? And so if they have disengaged from that voting process, which we're seeing a high level of apathy and that occurring, then they're doing it because they look at all the candidates and they say, look, I don't like any of these people. I don't believe they're working for me. They're not good people. And I just need to step away from that. My vote truly doesn't matter. And my voice doesn't matter. And so why I'm running is to give that voice back to the people of the state. Their voice does matter, whether I agree with them or not. Whether, we've lost the ability in this state, in this country, in this world, to agree to disagree and to find a common ground where we can move forward and fix what we can that we do agree on. And so it's really about giving people the space to voice what matters to them. Sometimes it's not anything I can even fix, but sometimes people just need to know that somebody cares enough to listen and hear them. And so that's what I'm working on. That's why I'm running.
I said a lot of that in my own campaign many times. It should always be people over party.
Yeah.
Because we all bring something different to the table. And I always feel like, those people who don't vote for the candidate often don't get represented.
Yeah.
And they're still part of those constituents, whether you voted for them or not.
Right. That's right. right. Everybody. It doesn't matter what I am affiliated with the Republican Party, but when I'm governor, I won't just be governor for the Republicans. I'll also be governor for the Democrats, for the independents, for the the libertarians, for the people that just don't vote at all. And I think that's very important to recognize that my morals and my standards are sitting here, but that doesn't mean that your voice isn't important and we shouldn't find how we can work together. So, yeah.
Well, that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And I think it also, you have a great point that people aren't listening, because I believe the Republican majority got elected to fix the property tax issue, and we still couldn't come to an agreement
Nope.
on that.
Nope. That was a big deal. And so this is another reason, and something I'm not afraid to say. I've had people say, "Are you really going to say this out loud?" And I'm like, "Yes." And that is, over this last election cycle, I watched this firsthand, where all of these people running, they were saying, "We're going to get this supermajority, and then we will be absolutely unstoppable. Nothing is going to keep us from passing all this stuff that we're supposed to get done." And I don't know if you were watching, but I think it was a pretty abysmal legislative session this last time. They keep saying, "Oh, look at all the great things we did," and I'm like, "But what did you do? Like, you passed a couple good things, but you dropped the ball on so many others, like the trafficking bill didn't even make it out of committee. What the heck? Why? That should have been a slam dunk protection for people." And it couldn't even make it out of committee. And so what I watched over that election cycle was, let's get this, super majority. We're going to be unstoppable. On election night, I won't say whose election party I was standing in, but I was standing in somebody's election party, and all I heard was, "We did it. We've got the super majority. We're going to, it's going to be a slam dunk." And not even 24 hours later, those same people were saying, "Well, I'm not sure we're going to be able to get it done with this supermajority." And I thought, you guys are all liars. You're lying. Because what they do is they get elected, and then they come in and they start playing the blame game. So it's that darn governor, the darn Democrats, the darn moderates, the darn broken supermajority, whatever their excuse is. And then they start saying, "But if you elect me next time, I'll get the job done for you." And we've heard that over and over and over for 20, 30 years now. And some of these guys have been there for 20 or 30 years, saying the exact same thing, running on the exact same lines. And they do just enough to appease and then start playing that blame game. And so, we were supposed to have this great supermajority that was supposed to get everything done, and we didn't really accomplish that much. Now, I will say we have some great representatives and some great senators in working for us. But then there's everybody else, and the everybody else is the problem. And those are our career politicians that have been hanging around, doing the minimum, working for the special interests, and not getting a whole lot done for us. And those guys need to go. So,
Okay. Well said.
yeah.
Now, you're a lifelong Kansan. You're a small business owner, women-owned business.
Yep. Yep.
What is it that you do, and tell us, where are you from in Kansas?
Yeah. So I was born in Wichita. I was raised up the road in Newton, and I graduated from Newton, so a smaller community. I've lived in South Central Kansas my entire life, so either Reno County, Harvey County, or Sedgwick County. But I have ties all over the state. My grandparents are from Cuba, Kansas, and Belleville. My other grandparents are from Coffeyville. I have relatives that lived out in Goodland. So all over the state, I'm connected by family, which is great. And I own a couple different businesses. I own a company called Everly Farm, which is a wedding and event venue. It's probably the second longest running in the entire state, for sure in much of the area around Sedgwick County. And it's been there since it was a working farm back in the 1800s, and then transitioned to a event venue in the early 60s, and has been an event venue ever since. I bought it almost 4 years ago now, and have been running it. And so I do that. But I also own a company called Kids Closet Consignment Sales, which I think the closest one to you here would be maybe Gardner. They have an active sale that they run, not only a kid sale, but a mom sale. And then we have some across the border in Missouri, in like Lee Summit, Blue Springs. So, but I own and operate the one in Wichita. And I actually own that company nationwide. So I'm the franchisor for it.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have 28 franchises across the United
Wow,
States.
that's
So
impressive.
yeah, yeah, that's what I do.
So you've kind of been seen as a political outsider for the most part.
Yeah.
What do you think your strengths and weaknesses are being an outsider trying to get in?
Well, I think my weaknesses are my strengths.
Okay, that's interesting.
I think that because I am the outsider that doesn't have that political experience, that sets me apart in a lot of very good ways.
Okay.
Um, I was on a city council back in I think it was '07 to 2012, and so that's the range of my full political experience. I want to make sure that I'm totally transparent.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I didn't really know why I was doing that at the time. I had small children. I had never done anything like that before. I kind of was installed. I mean, there was an election, but I didn't even tell anybody I was running, and I just ended up being on the city council. And they made me the water commissioner. And
Okay.
I was, again, I I didn't know anything about water. And so I went and I learned. And so I spent a lot of time in Topeka. I spent a lot of time with the Kansas League of Municipalities, just learning everything that I could. And it did put me in the space of a lot of our legislative, our representatives and our senators. But it wasn't, so I drew on that experience when I made this decision, and I drew on those very limited connections because I hadn't really been connected with a lot of those people for a long time. But so for the most part, being that outsider is what sets me apart from everyone else. While some view that as a weakness or an inexperience,
Hmm.
I view that as a strength because we don't need more of the same. I don't think that there's any one aspect of our entire state that doesn't need a complete and total overhaul. Whether we're talking about our education system, our medical system, our prison system,
Okay.
um, our foster care system. I mean, there's just everything is not functioning well, and people are suffering because of it. And so to bring a fresh perspective, bring new eyes to the situation, and one that isn't tied to those big money people, I think is what really needs to occur in this state. So you can call it inexperience, you can call it, whatever you want to call it, a weakness, but I view that as an actual strength. And I'm putting together a team right now that will be able to come in, and we will go through every department with a fine tooth comb, and we will work on what will add value to those areas while not harming. Because the last thing that and one of the major things that I learned when I was on a city council is, private citizen Stacy can come say, fix this. And it sounds great, sounds easy. Yeah, let's fix it. But Councilwoman Stacy, that now has all of the information laid in front of her, sees that if we fix this the way that somebody requests, that it harms
Hmm.
over here. And so it isn't always able to be done just like that. And you start pulling a string on one thing, and you realize that it's tied to it a complete blanket that if you pull the wrong string, you're going to unravel the whole thing. And so it has to be done carefully with a lot of consideration to what pulling one string, how it's going to affect somewhere else in this state. And so it's not something that I'm going to take lightly. It's something that, but I think it is something that definitely needs to be done. We need to make some major changes in this state to get things working better for our citizens.
It's incredible. The school system has become a big topic lately. I believe they've had directives to get rid of all DEI initiatives.
Hmm.
But there are diverse. We have diverse needs there. We have diverse
Sure.
learning. What is your opinion on that? Does DEI just need to go away? Does it need to be changed?
I do think that it needs to go away. And the reason that it needs to go away is because I would be insulted if the only reason that I got something was because I was a female.
Okay.
Okay. I want to get something because of the job that I have done, because of my merit. And And so, yeah, I don't agree with that at all. I think that if I was a Black person that was getting something because of the color of my skin, I would be upset with that. If I was doing it because I'm a female, I would be upset with that. I just don't think that that's a good way to bring people in and reward them. I think that it should be on that merit. Are they deserving of that position? Have they worked hard to get there? And the argument of uh, they're not given the
The
same
opportunity.
opportunities is hogwash. I was born on in a poor side of Wichita on a dirt road to nobody of nothing. And when I started my businesses a little over 10 years ago, I had $10 to my name. And I think that it is hogwash to say, I don't have a college degree. I'm happy to say that. I don't think that it's necessary to be successful when you have the determination and the willpower to do it. And anything I have ever set my mind to achieve, I have.
Oh, that's wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Um, you've emphasized building a future with opportunity and safety for families. Can you describe specific policies or investments you'd prioritize to strengthen that?
For families and did you say education?
Opportunity and safety for families.
Families. Yeah. I don't know that I have specific policies at this moment. I am talking with some people, especially in the foster care realm and like the family court system and some of
Mhm.
the things that are failing
Sure.
there. Again, massive failures wherever you look, and that's one where we're removing kids from families that and then not restoring them. The process is so long, and how much damage is being done to those children and those families during that time. And so there's that is something that we are formulating and we're putting together. There are some people I'm working with that are putting together bills that will expedite some of those procedures and get things working in the right direction to either reunite families or to make sure that the children are in safe environments. We want to believe that the people taking in foster kids are doing all the right things, but we know from talking with those children who have exited that foster care system that that is not correct. I know some incredible families
Mhm.
in the foster care system that love these kids and they have great outcomes when they are allowed to stay in those families. But sometimes, I've also heard stories where caseworkers just show up and remove children for no reason whatsoever from these foster families. And there's not really a lot of information as to why. And now you're uprooting these children once again from a more stable environment that they were being given and moved to who knows what next. And so there's just things that we need to look at why that's occurring and what we can do to make that not happen, make things better. So that's one area. There's many others. You said 30 minutes and be here all day.
That's right. And I got a lot of questions I want to get
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
As a small business owner, and I too am a small business owner, during my campaign right now for city commission, I'm touting I want Leavenworth City to be open for business.
Mhm.
We want to bring in economic development. We want to fill the businesses downtown. How would you take that approach as Kansas governor
Yeah.
and let people know that Kansas is open for business and we're going to get out of our own way and get rid of the red tape
Yeah.
that people can come in and be part of our communities?
Yeah. I think, when I look at my businesses, aside from the fact that I carry a liquor license and there's red
Mhm.
tape with that, there isn't a lot of red tape in my particular businesses. Now, when we're talking about things that would make it better for businesses in general, I think that we need to be looking at things like the income tax issue.
Mhm.
And are we really incentivizing people to work? Are we incentivizing employees? Well, are we even making it possible for employers to hire at an appropriate rate when they are taxed to death in the
Mhm.
process? I mean, my taxes are out of control. And so it makes it very difficult to hire a good solid worker at a rate that they should be getting. And so we need to be looking at things like that. Um, the taxation on businesses, and are we incentivizing people to stay working?
Mhm.
When it is a better deal for someone to go on public assistance, we've got a major problem.
Sure.
And we see that a lot. And
Mhm.
so I think that's one area that we could alleviate a lot of um, pressure on both employees and employers and really get people working in the right direction. Um, there's other sectors of business. When you work in one sector, you don't necessarily know what happens in another. So being able to, and this is where I call on the people of this state, you need to come to me and tell me about
Mhm.
the pain points in your area of business. Because if I don't know about it, I can't do anything about it. I can't assist in any way. And so one was brought to me about the trucking industry. And I didn't have any idea. I knew that our governor had lengthened the amount of time that trucks could be on the road, that drivers could drive, because there's a shortage of drivers.
Yes.
But the reason there's a shortage of drivers is because, well, in part because of the federal law that requires now that people take this class and then pass the test. So this class, now I've heard differing numbers. My son's looking into this. He says he can find it for 5,000, but I've been told, I don't know if it's a specific class of license, but I've been told in one industry it's 12,000
Oh,
to
wow.
take this test. Well, employers cannot afford to do that for every employee, but yet they have a line of people that want to come work for them that cannot afford to get into this business because they're younger people. They're the people we want getting into business,
Mhm.
you know, um, and it's been made cost prohibitive to make a living, to earn a wage, and to be involved in these businesses. And so these employers cannot afford to pay that. The employees cannot afford to pay it. And so we're stuck at a crossroads of how do we get, they used to be able to come in and um, apprentice and then go take the test.
Mhm.
And that isn't possible anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So so I think that, you know, just in that one particular industry, we need to look at what can we do to, um, you know, offer some sort of an incentive where the employee can pay it back over time, possibly. And not at a detriment, not like what we do to college kids right now and saddle them with decades of debt. That's not what I'm talking about. Or a forgiveness program where it's paid for, and as long as they stay with that employer over a certain amount of time, that debt is forgiven. I don't have all the specifics of that, but that's just some of the ideas that are being thrown out to solve that one problem. Because the last thing we need is to have a further shortage of drivers
Mhm.
and to lengthen that time even more where we start to get into dangerous territory. I don't think where they're sitting at right now, I think they extended it to 8 or from 8 to 10 hours. I personally don't think that that's too much driving. I think that it would be fine, but we are in essence making the roads a little less safe if that driver is overly tired. And so the last thing we want to do is get into a situation where we're extending that again and making the roads more dangerous. So that's just one example.
Mhm.
But I also believe that we need to empower the communities that want those businesses to come in to be the champions for their area. Blanketing legislation across the state, I do not believe is the answer, nor do I believe bringing in having the taxpayers pay for a certain company to come in to
Mhm.
one area of our state where the rest of the state doesn't benefit from that company is also the wrong approach. And so I think that if you're a for-profit company, you should not be subsidized by the state necessarily, because that's taxpayer money, and people in Western Kansas don't benefit from legends and things like that.
So that's interesting
Yeah.
because from a open market
Hmm.
approach, if I'm a business that's a big business
Hmm.
that's looking to relocate,
Right.
the
Right.
big thing right now are a lot of the data warehouses.
Right.
Kansas wants as many of these as we can get because it's, you know, They're easy to fit in.
Mhm.
They don't cause a lot of trouble. Nobody's complaining about the smell or the sound.
Now,
I
which data centers are we talking about?
think we're looking at just data storage
Okay,
centers,
data
really.
storage. Okay, okay. Not necessarily the battery plant.
No, not necessarily the battery
Yeah.
plant. Although we do have one that just opened in DeSoto
Yeah.
that everybody's super excited about.
Well, we have other problems with battery plants. Depends on the type and the kind and the what they're
Sure.
doing. So, but yes.
But if I'm trying to choose whether I go to Kansas, Oklahoma,
Mhm.
Texas, if we're not offering a for-profit incentive to say this is why you should come here,
Right.
are we ever going to get picked? I mean, if I'm that company, I'm going where the sweetest deal is, because
And
I think a lot of people think profit is a bad word,
mhm.
but we don't get into business because we
Right.
want to be poor, and we don't do it because we're being nice. We're providing a service.
How are we supporting the small businesses in that?
I think we have to track small businesses the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. I would much rather see us support our small businesses, our local small businesses, than to subsidize huge businesses that choke out those small ones.
That's interesting because the big business, which one's going to alleviate the property tax issue for the
Yeah.
area?
I don't know.
That's the
It is the balance.
hard.
It is hard. But when we're looking at, let's talk about Western Kansas, where we have pharmacies closing and towns shriveling up and dying, and their businesses are not being supported. Okay. It's easy to say, let's do it over here in Eastern Kansas,
Mhm.
where there's a lot more to support that than to say that to Western Kansas and say, we're going to put this over here in Eastern Kansas, but you're going to help pay for it.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fair. That's fair.
That's the problem that I have with that. Now, if we can, get the communities that business wants to come into being the ones that offer those incentives, because they're receiving the biggest tax benefit, are they
Mhm.
not?
They are.
Then that I'm okay with.
Okay.
But it needs to be more locally incentivized versus state incentivized.
One of the issues we have really in this area in the property tax realm is that we are 90% um, consumer and 10% commercial.
Right.
And I think the accepted standard really is around 70-30.
Sure.
70% consumer, 30%
Sure.
business.
Yeah.
But we have a unique situation here with the prisons
Right.
and the forts
Right.
and the schools. So it's very cumbersome. So when they do the breakdown,
Mhm.
I think there's 3 counties in Kansas that have the same problem.
Right.
We really struggle because the taxpayers in this town carry
Yeah.
that county budget, and
Yeah.
everybody, like you said, is taxed out,
Mhm.
and so they want to see the county reduce the budget,
Right.
but they don't want to lose services. How can we, or what can we do for areas like
Yeah.
like Leavenworth?
Yeah. And that's a good question. And I don't know that I have the answer for that today.
Okay, that's fair.
But this is where the voices need to come together to bring solutions. Bring your idea. What is your solution? What is your idea of a solution? And then let's figure out how to make that happen. And so, I'll never say that I'm not open to that conversation. But I don't want to, again, this goes back to that, let's fix this here, but does it harm over here? And so that's always going to be the way that I look at things. If we help in one area, are we harming in another? And is that fair? And so we need to come up with solutions of how to help you in this area in Leavenworth, because you're right. I have heard that and I understand that, but we can't lay it on Western Kansas or other parts of the state that it will harm them in the process of helping here. And so we need to come up with some good solutions. And I think that's going to take a much bigger conversation and a lot more voices in that conversation to come up with those solutions. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this
But
kind
there
of off
is a
topic.
solution.
There is a solution,
We
I'm
can
sure.
find it. I am confident of that.
You're familiar with SAR bonds.
Somewhat. Yeah.
Somewhat.
I mean, the basic premise. Yeah.
They have been used to try to attract the
Right.
Chiefs and the Royals.
Right.
I think the legislation has been rewritten by our local senator so that it can be used in some dilapidated mall areas, so that local communities can take advantage of that.
Right.
Because the larger communities really were the ones getting the benefit.
Sure.
How do
Yeah.
you feel about that approach?
I mean, I guess I would feel a little bit better, but then again, who is going to be benefiting and who is going to be harmed? And again, so it's just always that balance of who's going to benefit from the Chiefs or the Royals coming here the most,
Mhm.
and who is it going to cost the most. So, you know, I I don't know that that's the best
Okay.
option, but
Okay.
it's a better option. I mean, I'm all for revitalizing dilapidated areas. That's
Sure.
I mean, I live in about probably about 20 minutes from a little town. I won't say it because I don't want to embarrass them, but a little town that is high blight. I mean, pretty much the entire town is blight, and and it's a cute little town. It could be a cute little town.
Mhm.
It is deserving of being an adorable little town. I've driven through some of the most adorable little towns in our state. I love them, and I think, man, I wish every little Kansas town could look like this. Now, what are they doing that is different from what this community is doing? And I think some of it comes down to community involvement and
Mhm.
community pride and community commitment versus, well, that's not our problem. And so, one of the things as I'm traveling around the state is I'm asking communities, what are you doing? What are you doing to be involved in your community? Because ultimately this is where you live.
Mhm.
And really the buck stops there. If I'm being honest, it's really right there, you and your neighbors to get involved. That's your calling. Because when I go home today, I'm not affected by what's happening in Lansing or in Leavenworth. Um, I'm not. I live, closer to Wichita. I'm affected by what is happening in Wichita. I'm affected
Mhm.
by they're making us pay for downtown parking. Gosh darn it, I don't want to pay for that. But that's the kind of things that, if I'm in that community, you need to be focused on what is happening in that community and empowering the citizens to be active
Mhm.
in that community. And again, that goes back to that apathy. We are this apathetic society now. And, whether I've had people come to me and say, well, it's apathy, but it's also like somebody else should do it for me. Well, that's still apathy.
Mhm.
Okay. That's an apathetic mindset of, I can't be bothered. But it comes from a place of it doesn't matter. And so if I don't think that it matters because I don't matter, then you're going to be apathetic toward that situation and you're just going to say do whatever you're going to do and leave it to somebody else. And so we need to turn that back and get people realizing that they do matter. And I hear that all the time. My vote doesn't matter. My voice doesn't matter. And I say, well, in an election like mine, like yours,
Mhm.
it's popular vote, baby. It's
Mhm.
popular vote, and every voice matters. And if you don't voice yours, in fact, my last election when I ran for that city council, I won by one vote.
Oh, wow.
One. So tell me it doesn't matter. It matters. It does matter. And so getting involved is incredibly important. And I think when you start to see communities come together and rally for that change, you'll find those resources and you'll find those ways to get things done and to make those communities beautiful again. Um, so I think that that's where it starts. And one of the things that I talk about with that is, we want to we have so many things that need to be changed in this state. And it truly is overwhelming. When I get the broad picture, I go, wow, I'm going to need a
Sure.
lot of people to help me. But that's what activating the community does. And so when we get a lot of active citizens and a good, strong governor that wants change, we then work together. We, first of all, clean out that legislature and get good servant leadership that will be active as well, listening to the people in their communities and helping them make the change legislatively that will benefit their communities. And then we just all work together to make those changes. That's what it boils down to. What has happened over the last 20, 30 years is everything has been left to a very small number of people to make all the decisions for everybody in the state. And quite frankly, they haven't been doing a great job. Okay. They have not been doing a great job. And we've gotten some really good people in this last election cycle. We need to continue keeping that pressure on and getting our communities more active and keeping that pressure on better legislative elections. So, that's what it's going to boil down to. But there are answers out there. Where there's a will, there's a way to accomplish everything we want to see happen in this state. To a degree, there's always going to be a compromise. There's always going to be something that we have to agree to disagree on, and get as much as we can in the direction we want, while realizing that 100% is not going to ever be achieved. And to just, but we have to work together to do it. There's 2.9 million people in this state, roughly. And if we could all agree on even one single thing, that would be a flat out miracle. It's just, It's not going to happen. But we can come together and find things that we can in pockets, in groups. So that's the communities where they say, this is what we agree on. Even though as a community, I know you said we have a lot of conservative people here, but we have some that aren't. But can those groups come together and find common ground to make this a better community? Yes, I believe that they can. They may not agree on social issues. They may not agree on certain hot button issues, but there is always, and I believe that those have been used as tools against us to keep us fighting, divided, and not able to find those solutions. So when we set those things aside and we can focus on a common goal together to fix things, we can get things done. For sure.
You talk about voter apathy, which is interesting. And I'm going to throw out Representative Proctor's name here because he's running for Secretary of State. And he's talked about how the elections in Kansas need to be more secure, that we've had some things going on.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? Do you think we have issues in our elections?
I do. I will go probably a step further than maybe what Pat has said.
Okay.
And, our voting machines.
Okay.
I would love to have voting machines that we can trust to be accurate. I think that it could speed up the process. But when I was growing up, we voted paper and we knew the election results that night. And these days,
almost counterintuitive.
Right. And these days it can be weeks later. I mean, look at Nevada during the presidential election. We didn't know the result of that for 2 weeks? What was it? It was insane. And so clearly there are some issues. And in talking with people who understand the technology of these machines, it is incredibly overcomplicated for what it should be doing. And it can fail 15 different ways, I think I've been told. And that's a problem. And the only people that really understand them are the IT people that created them. Okay. To me, that is a security risk right there. So what the answer to that is, I don't know that I have an exact answer, except for we could start by simplifying those machines. They don't need to be rocket science level, IT technology. They can be simple. You're putting in the information and it records the information, and that's not exactly what is occurring. Okay. And so there's concerns about whether they can be tapped into and manipulated and that data can be corrupted. And I do think we need to pay attention to those things. Whether that is correct or not is irrelevant. We need to make sure that we are making sure that it is correct information. So, and looking into that. And I think there's enough people that have that concern that we owe it to those people to give them peace of mind, if nothing else, on those machines. So.
To take that a step further, President Trump has said he wants to get rid of mail-in ballots.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I'm kind of on the fence on that one as well, because we do have sectors or sections of our society that legitimately cannot make it to those polling stations. And whether they are our military overseas who deserve to have their voice heard.
True.
Whether it be people that are shut in that legitimately cannot get out due to physical ailments, they deserve their voice to be heard as well. I've even talked with people in healthcare who say, look, we work 12-hour shifts. They're not letting us out to go vote. It doesn't matter. And what because I it's been thrown about, let's make it a national holiday. Well, guess what? Emergencies don't take a national holiday.
That's right.
So I don't know that I could get behind that, but I think that there are ways to secure that better. And so I think that, and I think that Pat has spoken on some of those ways as well. But and that's more in his realm of expertise than mine. But it would be a partnership between
Mhm.
the governor and the Secretary of State for sure. So
Okay.
yeah, and the AG
Um,
for that matter. So yeah,
the Republican field is quite crowded. I think
sure
you and I have
is.
had conversations on the side with a number of people there. What are you doing to stand out so that
Mm,
people are seeing you as the rising
yeah.
political opponent?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think everything that I stand for stands out all by itself. I
Hmm.
don't think that I resemble anyone else in this playing field at all, and I think that that alone is something to take notice of. Now, as I being a business owner, what I have been able to do is leverage social media, and so I have traveled across the state. I've put about 35,000 miles on my car
Oh, wow.
and since December. And although in Western Kansas, I was chastised that that's not very many miles a day, but and I understand that they drive a lot of miles. My son used to drive 100 miles a day for school, and so I get that. But on average, most people in the state probably do not drive 135 miles a day, which is what that averages out to. So I've put that mileage on there, getting out and talking with the people of the state, getting face to face with people, which I think is incredibly important. And then I've leveraged social media, podcasts such as yours, and media outlets to make sure that people are hearing who I am. But um, I think that because of the business background, I've leveraged it better than most, and I've been told that. I've actually been reached out nationally
Oh, wow.
by groups who have seen my content and said, "We've never seen a first time candidate do what you're doing."
Oh, okay.
And some of these have managed many statewide campaigns, so we've never seen it before. And I said, "Well, that's fantastic. I'm usually ahead of my time, and I would expect to see this become the trend going forward. Is social media being utilized in a completely different way?" And I think that Trump is really the leader in that, in how he leveraged social media in his campaigns, specifically X. We all know about about that. I think that he is the grand poobah,
Grand Poobah?
poobah, yeah. In that respect, he's the leader in that one because he brought it to the attention, I think, first. But it's always been the attention of the of business people in general to learn how to leverage that. And so I think that that's really reached a lot of people. I traveled recently to Johnson County to their fair and have never been there for anything other than networking, business
Mhm.
networking events. And people were approaching me saying, "We've seen you, we're
Oh,
following
wow.
you." And so that tells me that what I'm doing is working, reaching people across the state that might not otherwise have an opportunity to meet me. But I'll bring this up. I'm a strong believer in term limits, if you haven't figured that one out.
Yeah.
But also, I'm a firm believer in we should be capping the total amount that could be spent on a campaign, period,
Okay.
which would take out a lot and limit the big money politics that's going
Uh-huh.
on. It would limit those special interest groups, and it would force candidates to get out in front of people and stop hiding behind their commercials and their mailers. And so I think that if you met your candidate, you would figure out very quickly whether you wanted to support them or not,
Mhm.
and it would be pretty obvious. I won't name any names, but we know about the speak and run mentality of some of our politicians. I am the person that stays the whole time, sits down and talks with people, looks them in the eye, and that's what I want. I want to look you in the eye, and I want you to know that I care about what's going on with your family, with your life, and if I don't live in Western Kansas, so I want to know about Western Kansas. I don't live in Eastern Kansas, so I want to know about Eastern Kansas. And every part of the state is important. So
Mhm.
I think that that is um, one of the things that I'm trying very, very much to get across to people is that there's a different way to do this, and we can do it as a people and not rely on all these big money. I don't know if you heard that I had a radio station that asked me to pay to come for an interview, and I said, "No, thank you. I'm not a pay to play girl." And I made a social media post about it. I did not call them out. I did not name them, but it's a Western Kansas radio conglomerate,
Okay.
and they that's their policy. And I said, well, I'm not looking for advertising. I'm looking to get my message out because I believe the people of the state deserve to know who their options are to vote for. And any limiting of that is shameful, in my
Okay.
opinion. Any limiting of being able to know who your candidates are is not okay. And so here recently, I won't name this newscaster either, but she put out when the Democrat from Johnson County announced their run, she made a post about it and then posted two Republicans. And she lives in the city I live in,
Okay.
and she knows me personally. I sat on her couch,
Uh-huh.
and I said, "Why didn't you mention me in this post? Why didn't you mention the other candidates?" And some people kind of came after me. They're like, "Oh, you're just being a sore loser or whatever." And I said, "No, I'm looking for the fair playing field."
Mhm.
So she went back and fixed it, but she forgot one of them. She still didn't get all the candidates, another one that was sitting in Wichita. And so I said, I'm looking for the fair playing field. And by the way, she still neglected to mention this candidate. And I named her and tagged her.
Oh, wow.
And I said, because it's not about me, it's about getting the people of the state the information they need to make the solid decision for who they want to lead this state, period. And that's what it's about.
Awesome.
Oh,
Okay, we're going to switch gears now.
okay.
Not quite as formal.
Okay.
First, before we do, I usually try to wear a nonprofit shirt. Today, I'm repping Rapid Response, not just because I really like this T-shirt, because of what
Okay.
they do for our veterans, supporting them, taking them around to appointments, and
Oh, I want to be connected with them. I love I
yeah,
love veterans, and
I can definitely make that connection. They
that'd be
are,
awesome.
and it's an incredible group of people to work with.
That's amazing.
All right, so we have some 10 rapid questions here.
Okay.
I'm going to let you choose
I actually didn't.
four.
I actually didn't read them, so
Okay, good.
I was like, let's
That
let it
makes
be
it
a
even
surprise.
better. So you get to choose four, 1
Yeah.
through 10, and
Yeah.
I get to pick the fifth one.
Okay.
All right, so you get to go first.
Okay.
1 through 10.
Okay. So 3.
3.
Whew.
Who has been the biggest influence on your leadership style?
Oh. Okay. So I will tell this story on myself. It's the one time I did not vote Republican, and that was when Ross Perot was running.
Okay.
And so I actually have 2. So that was the first time I voted, and I listened to what he said, and he spoke to me. But he was an entrepreneur.
Yep.
I didn't know I was going to become an entrepreneur.
Yep.
But what he said made sense, and I said, "Man, that's the guy I want in office," and so that's who I voted for. Now, so I looked even at that young age, I was looking at entrepreneurship, and I
Okay.
didn't realize it. So the other one is Mary Kay Ash.
Okay.
Okay, so a lot of people don't know that I've been with Mary Kay for 10 years. I'm a highly decorated sales director. I just stepped down from being a sales director in October to do my run for governor. And Mary Kay Ash is, I mean, she's hands down one of the most impressive women entrepreneurs of our entire generation in this country. And if you don't know anything about her, you should go read her book. It's amazing.
Okay.
She started her company on $5,000 and a bunch of people telling her no. And I can resonate with that. I love when people tell me no. It fires me up and makes me want to do it even more. So the more people tell me I can't do this,
Mhm.
I'm going to find a way. I'm going to
Okay.
find a way to do it. So that is what has really, those 2 people have really probably impressed on me more than anybody. And as far as leadership. Yeah.
So I had the chance, Ross Pro donated to the Simon Center on Fort Leavenworth.
Okay.
And
I
so
didn't
he's
know.
up here for the grand opening. I
Oh,
actually got to
nice.
send.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next number.
Oh, and there was 10, you said?
Yep.
Okay, let's do 10. I don't
All
know.
right, number 10. If you weren't running for governor, what would you be doing right now?
Oh, right now, let's see. Well, I will tell you that as soon as the election is over, I'm taking a vacation.
Vacation,
Whatever
okay.
way it goes, I'm gonna take a vacation. So I don't get to vacation much in my businesses, in my business life, and in everything I'm doing. So I'd probably go lay on a beach somewhere for a week.
Okay. Just for everybody out there, as the leader of SorWil, I'm not sure that I've taken one of those
Okay, yeah,
vacations. I've
I don't
taken
get
a
to take them.
I've taken a staycation a couple of times and
Yeah.
still worked, but,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Do naps count? That's that's
the
the
magical
extent of
vacation
my
has eluded
that's
me.
right.
Okay, next number.
7.
7. Oh, I bet you I know the answer to this one, but rural Kansas or urban Kansas? Where do you feel most at home?
Um, I like both. That's a tough question, honestly, because I've kind of had my feet in both. So,
Mhm.
um, I would say growing up, I was probably better in rural Kansas, but I've become accustomed to urban. So I like them both.
Okay, alright, one
I
more.
okay. I will say I love the sound of birds chirping in my window in the morning, which you don't get in urban Kansas
That's true.
very often. So
That's
I
true.
like wildlife. Okay. 8.
8. What's your favorite Kansas food or restaurant?
Oh God. um, so I grew up in Newton, so they would probably be very upset if I did not name um it's not in business anymore, but
Oh,
it's Mexican and it
okay,
was my best friend's family. So it's Chuck's Familia Restaurant. And I
okay.
still go back to Newton and go to the family and say, please make me some of the famous cheese dip.
Okay.
And yeah, I used to eat smothered burritos with pork smothered burrito. It was wonderful. The best place in Kansas.
Okay.
So,
All
but
right.
not in business anymore, unfortunately. So,
So last question I get to pick.
okay.
All right. Um, what's the toughest decision you've had to make as a business
It's always employees,
owner?
always employees. So, um, you know, most of my businesses didn't have employees until I started the wedding venue. And when I started to hire and then have to fire, that's not a comfortable place for me. I love people so much and I want to give people opportunity and space to be successful. So, little known fact about me, I hire a lot of ex felons and
Okay.
I hire ex drug addicts and just people kind of down on luck, homeless that are trying to get their life back together, trying to
Second
get.
chance
Yep,
business.
absolutely. And sometimes that works really really well, and sometimes it does not.
Sure.
And so, but I'm all about that second chance. And the reason for that is again, a lot of people didn't want to give me a chance. They told me no a lot. They didn't expect a lot out of me. I wasn't the person that people said, "Oh, you should go to college or
Mhm.
you should do this." I was kind of discounted a lot and looked over, and nobody really ever took the time to see what was in my heart and what I wanted, and so I kind of had to do that myself.
Mhm.
And so I always tell people when you see somebody who resembles what I used to look like, where you didn't think I was going to amount to much, maybe you ought to take a second look because there's some real diamonds in the rough out there, and you can be successful if you put your mind to it and you put your heart into it and you give it your all. I believe that everybody has it in them, so I do.
So we have a number of second chance businesses in the
Yeah,
area.
yeah.
The first one I learned of was Queens of Clean.
Oh, I love it.
She was Stacy Vega was on our podcast and she
Yeah,
talked about it. And then I found out Century Van Lines,
yeah.
ran by Jeff Klemp or Senator Klemp,
Okay, okay, yeah.
and also Zephyr, which
Mhm.
actually works with inmates from the prison
Yeah,
to give them a second chance and a skill set for when they get out. So I completely agree with you. We have
yeah,
to give people an opportunity,
yeah.
otherwise they will continue to do what they've always
Well,
done.
yeah, and I mean, sometimes just people make mistakes and that mistake spirals them down a place they never thought they'd be at, and just to be able to give them that hand up. I'm all for the hand up, I'm not for the hand out, and to give them that hand up, to give them that space to be successful and to realize that, sometimes people hit rock bottom and they don't feel like they are worth anything. And to just help people understand that they do have value and that they are important, that's incredibly important to me. So, because I would hope that if I ever went rock bottom, that somebody would extend that hand out to me as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Why don't I'll give you a few seconds to just shout out your website,
Yeah.
how people can get more information about you,
Yeah.
where they can donate, because we all know
Yeah.
that that's helpful.
Yeah. So my website's super easy. It's Stacy. Oh, I just forgot it. That is lack of sleep. So it's Stacy Rogers 4ks.com. And if you have trouble, remember that it's Stacy Rogers Forks.com.
Okay.
So it's super easy. And I like to say that's because we're at a fork in the road.
Okay.
Okay. But you can find me on any social media platform. You can just Google my name and you're going to find about 5 pages of content. All the podcasts I've been on, every social media platform. And you can also donate on the website. And there's also volunteer spaces. You can sign up to be a volunteer. And you can also endorse. And guess what? I want real people endorsements. I want the business owners. I don't care about big people endorsements. I mean, if they want to give them to me, cool. I've got a couple former senators and some attorneys, but I really want those real people of this state who are the feet on the ground. It's their endorsement that matters to me the most. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Stacy, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. I'm
Thank you for
glad
having me.
I've enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah.
It's really exciting to see and meet the people that are maybe leading our great state soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
That's our episode for SorWil Solutions this week. Tune in next week. And I believe we have Terry, I can't say her last name, from the Lansing Library. He'll be talking about what's going on in our libraries today.
Okay. Awesome.